You too.
Okay, all right. We're waiting just another couple of minutes, maybe another minute. And then, because I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves, right? We're just going to do a relaxation exercise and then we'll introduce ourselves. All right, so let's give it another minute. You have supplies or you don't have supplies?
I have supplies.
Okay, good. All right, so take your paint out and take your plate out and take a spoon out. Take your little cups out if you have little cups. Okay, and I think that's, and do you have water?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so you're gonna need your water. Okay, I'm gonna get started, and as people come in, they'll come in, and that'll be great. Okay, you might not be able to see me because the camera might need to be adjusted, but don't worry about that. Basically, what I'd like for you to do is stand up. Just lift your arms up over your head. Let your shoulders drop. Relax. And then pull them back down, all the way down. And then take your shoulders and pull them all the way back so that your lungs open up completely and you've got plenty of air coming in, and the air is going from your lungs to your brains. So you're thinking and you'll be creative. And then let's close our eyes for just a minute and just breathe and relax. Okay, all right, that was good. All right, so I'm Yasmin, and I'm a textile artist, and that means that I color and pattern and dye fabric, and I use paints, and I use dye, and I use synthetic dye, and sometimes I use natural dye. We're going to divide this workshop into 3 sections. We're going to color, we're going to color shape, and we're going to cover layering, okay? And we're going to do that by creating stencils that we will use to paint a design onto fabric. For the first part of the workshop, we're going to do color, primary and secondary. And at this point, if you'd like to introduce yourself before we get started, I'll start first because in addition to introducing ourselves, we also want to say what we're grateful for. So first of all, I'm grateful to be alive. Second of all, I'm grateful to be with you. Third of all, I'm grateful to Chai and Delicia and Poppy and everyone else in the organization for sponsoring this workshop. And then I'm grateful to the Stockton Arts, Healing, and Creative Community, right? Because we're growing and we're so glad that all of you are here with us today. Okay, who'd like to be next? And you don't have to.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
My name's Poppy, and I'm part of Chai. As you just mentioned, Yasmin, today I'm grateful for this workshop, that you're here today to teach us something cool. And I'm grateful for some good toast I had for breakfast.
Okay. Thank you, Poppy. Anybody else, or should we just go ahead and jump into the workshop? Okay, we'll go ahead and jump in. And we're going to take a look at my plate. Can everybody see the plate? Okay, there we go. All right, so the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. With red, yellow, and blue, white, and black, you can make any color in the world. So the way that you make green, and you can follow along, you can work with me. You're gonna have time to work on your own too. But we're gonna open the yellow. Get this open easily. Okay, and I have some small spoons here. You may or may not have small spoons, but any spoon will do, or your paintbrush will do. Just want to take a small amount of yellow and put it towards the edge of your plate. Put one spoon or one dabble, and then do another in yellow. And then I'm going to put the yellow spoon over here and the yellow paint over here. Okay, and I'm opening the red now. I have to remember to work over this plate. Right. And I'm taking another spoon and I'm adding a spoon of red. Okay. Then while I have the red spoon out, I'm going to go back to the yellow and I'm going to add a little bit of red to the yellow. Not as much red as I added yellow. Just dropping that down. Can everybody see that? Okay, now I'm gonna put the red spoon over here. Okay, I'm gonna open my blue. Let's see, can we get the blue open?
I'll just join us.
That sounds like CJ. Who is that?
The person who just joined us, their name is Amal Amar.
Okay, hello. We're just mixing colors. So
hi there. I just had to pick up the kit because I just found out where it was. So I'm excited to join.
Well, we're excited to have you here. We're grateful to have you here. Okay, so we've taken out our plate, right? We've put a spoonful of yellow, two spoonfuls of yellow, 2 spoonfuls of yellow, 1 spoonful of red, then a half a spoon of red in the yellow, a half a spoon of blue in the yellow, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put blue in the red. You're going to have time to go and do this on your own. So if you just want to look now and not do, that's fine. Okay, now we're going to mix colors. So anybody have any ideas? Then you can type or say it out loud. What color we're going to get when we mix this red with this yellow?
Got orange.
Okay. All right, mine needs more yellow because it's still kind of red. So I'm going to take the yellow and drop a little more yellow in it because I want an orange or a yellow orange, not a red orange. Okay, takes a lot of yellow to overcome that red. That's a strong red. Let's see what's going to happen with the yellow and the blue. Any guesses about what color that might make? Okay, and I'm going to tell you a secret. In these paints that I'm using, right, the yellow is very weak. So it's taken a lot of yellow to overcome the blue and the red. Different paints will work in different ways. And if you use the same paint all the time, you'll learn, okay, I need 3 parts yellow to 1 part blue in order to make a green. Okay, that's a pretty dark green, but it's green. How's everybody else doing? Getting green? Okay, maybe you're not. Or maybe you just don't want to share. Okay, mix that up just a little bit more. Now I'm kind of excited to see what's going to happen with this next one, and it should make purple. So let's see, I'm going to move that over a little bit out of the way of the green. Okay, it worked, it worked, it worked. Okay.
I don't have red.
You don't have red? Okay, no problems. Then you will get orange, excuse me, then you will get green. So you'll have 3 primary colors, and that will be yellow, blue, and red, right? And then you'll have 1 secondary color, and that will be combining yellow and green together, right? And then anybody else who has both yellow and red, or who has red in addition to the other 2 colors, will also be able to get an orange and a green and a purple. Okay, I'm going to wipe these spoons off. If you don't have enough spoons or you have more spoons or whatever, you might not have to wipe yours off. Oops, okay, that one broke. You can't see me when I'm talking off camera. Okay, so we're gonna dip it in water just to clean it a little bit. We're gonna dip this in water just to clean it a little bit, and I'm just wiping them off with the towel. Okay, and dip it in the water just to the side. Okay, now I want you to put down a little bit of yellow, just plain yellow. And we're gonna put down just a little bit of red, just plain red. And just a little bit of blue. Plain blue. Okay, there that goes. All right. Now, if you look around your plate, right, you have all of the primary colors. So that's blue, that's red, that's yellow, and all of the secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. Okay, so that means with the exception of black and white, we have a complete palette. Okay, now we're going to paint a background. So take a piece of your fabric, and if you don't have fabric and you're using paper to do to create your stencil on, not with, but on, right? Put your fabric down. I'm moving my paint, and I'm picking my fabric up. And I'm kind of trying to keep my workspace fairly clear because the paint gets all over everything. Okay. You take your fabric and you want to lay it on your workspace. Okay. We're going to paint a background now. So everybody should choose the color that they want their background to be. Okay. And then we're going to take a brush and dip it in your water. I'm moving this over here so you can see. Dip it in your water and then take your fingers. This is a sponge brush, yours doesn't have to be. Take your fingers and wring it out. Maybe give just the tip a little bit of water. Okay, and I think I want a green background. Right. So I'm just gonna kind of add just a little bit of water to the green using my brush. Maybe a little bit more. Because this has to dry, or at least partially dry. So you don't want it to be too wet, right? So kind of brush or foam brush, kind of get rid of the excess water. And then I'm going to very lightly go across and create a background. Okay, I'm going across in straight rows, right? But you don't have to do that. You could go across like this if you wanted to, right? You go across like this if you want to. You could fill that in. So we're just putting some color on this fabric, so it's just not completely white, right? If you're a perfectionist and you did the first strokes, you probably want to go back. Anybody having any trouble with too much water? Okay, because it shouldn't be soaping wet or sopping wet, whichever one
I
you
have
want
a
to say.
question actually. What's the problem with it being too wet?
We're going to do 2 more layers. We only have an hour and a half. And if it's too wet, it's not going to be, well, it makes it more difficult to apply the stencil and the next layer of color. If it is too wet and you feel comfortable, wring it out. Okay. You're going to have time to work with yourself. You can put a piece of paper on top and a piece of paper on the bottom to get rid of some of the excess moisture. Is yours too wet?
No, I was just curious, but it makes sense. It sounds like, if it outside of the time constraints of a workshop, like one could do it like wet, it's like for an effect, and then let it dry.
Right.
But I see what you're saying.
Absolutely, and I hear what you're saying. Yes, you can. And this is a very basic workshop, right? So we're just covering the basics, and what I'm hoping is if you're interested in stenciling, or if you're interested in fiber art, see, mine's a little bit there, it's gonna go on that board. First of all, we'll have other workshops, and then second of all, you'll do some exploration on your own. I'm gonna show you some pieces of work. Okay, does everybody understand? First of all, we're going to mix the colors. Red and yellow make orange. Red and blue make purple. Yellow and blue make green. On your plate or your palette, you're going to have green, purple, blue, red, yellow, and orange. You're going to wet your brush, wring out the excess moisture, dip it in the paint, right? And then paint your fabric any way that you choose to paint it, because we're going to keep going with this. This is just the bottom layer. And I want to show you some examples of stencil work and where you may decide you want to go with this. Freezer paper and paper stencils are just one kind of stencil. There are a lot of different materials that you use for stencils, and I'm hoping I don't get this wet. Okay, this is just a elongated circle stencil, okay, that's been used or recut for each different color, right? And then they're just laid on top of each other. So one time the blue went on, the next time the gold green went on, the next time the green went on. The final time there was a stencil that left open areas for the black to go on. And I'm gonna pull this up because it's getting wet. Okay. This is a very simple geometric design, okay? And it's basically, it's triangles, but by repeating them in different colors and varying the size of the triangles and overlapping the triangles in some places, right? Let me see if we can get it better. Okay.
So that's so beautiful. Wow.
Thank you. You get an interesting and a really kind of a colorful design. And it's also fun. And this is just working with basic geometric shapes. So you can kind of take this idea and think, well, what if I actually had a flower that had a circular center, right? And I did a large one in the background, the stencil of a large one for the background, and then a slightly smaller stencil for the next one, and then a really small stencil for the last one. And I did it in a variety of different colors. So that's kind of the concept with this, right? Okay, this is a little stencil work, and it's also, I'm using it to show you what you can do with paint, with a combination of paint and dye. Let's see if we can get this. I'm gonna pull this up further. Okay, that shows some of it. Okay. So the red diamonds are stenciled, okay? And it's actually a blue dye over a red background in this part. And this is all stenciled. So the triangles, excuse me, they're not diamonds, they're triangles. The triangles were laid out along a circular line, right? Then the line kind of repeats itself in this part of the design. These are paints, just like the fabric paints that we're using, except that they're metallic. And then this part, the black and the yellow, is hand painted. And then it goes back to some more hand painting. So once you get into it, you can combine it with several different mediums, right? To create really interesting layered designs. Okay, okay, then you keep working and we're gonna move on to shapes positive and negative. And I am seeing that you guys have cut out what is a positive shape, right? Yeah, and then when it goes on the background and you paint around it or over it, right? It's going to be the open shape, okay? I had kind of thought to go the other way, in the other direction. So for me, I folded my paper in half, and the simplest shape to cut is a triangle, because you just go straight up and then take your scissors and point them straight up to that point. This is the fold, okay? And you guys have already done this, so you know. And then go straight up here. And you go there. And straight up here. And you go there. And then I'm gonna come along this edge here and just add some, you couldn't even see what I was doing because I wasn't on the right thing, right? We're just gonna add some variation to this shape.
Can we pause for just a moment? I think the live just randomly cut out, so I'm gonna go live again, okay?
Okay.
Sorry about that. All right, we should be good.
Okay, we had a little technical problem there. Miss Poppy, as usual, was on the case. It's resolved. Let's move on. Okay, so now that, can you see what I've cut out here? Okay, so now I'm just gonna go back in and make some more cuts. I don't know if you can tell, I'm not very much interested in reality. I am very much interested in geometry and color. So very rarely will you see any work of mine that's got anything that resembles anything except my imagination. What kind of shapes do you like best, Gracie?
I like, I don't know which one because there's a lot, and my favorite one is the triangle.
My favorite too. I don't know why, but it has been really, I think almost since I was about as old as you. That's a long time. Okay. You guys are continuing to do background and continuing to cut stencils. Okay, these are the shapes that I cut out, okay? If we were working on freezer paper, they'd have a waxed side on the back, right? And we would just take our iron and iron them down, okay? We're not working on freezer paper, so the shape is hard to get on the fabric. Though if you don't mind getting your fingers messy, you can just put the shape down, take your brush and paint around them, okay? This shape, I have to remember where I am. Okay, in this shape, the open areas, can you see that? Let's see, over, okay. The open areas, we're going to paint on the fabric. The areas that are open, right, are where the color is going to go. And because we can push the shape down, I'm not going to have a lot of difficulty painting. Does anybody have at least one stencil that they're ready to paint on? Yeah, let's go. Okay, I want to use all of my secondary colors in this piece. And this might be a little tricky, but take your time. Okay, so I'm actually going to start here with this shape. Is the camera there? Okay, good. And then I'm going to go here on this one. And I'm moving fast and my brush is fairly dry. And if it looks like it's too wet, see, I almost pulled it up that time. If you're having any problems and you got a kit and you have a surface that you can thumbtack or tape onto, and your stencil is moving more than you want to, try using your tape or your thumbtack. But actually it's not doing bad. Anybody have too much water so that it looks like it's spreading under the stencil? Okay, hello, somebody say something. Oh, so these are creative people engrossed in their work who don't make comments while they're working? Ah, okay. So then I have a secret to tell you guys. If you're a silly person and you think that you're going to stop being silly as you get older, that does not happen. If you are silly, you just remain silly, which is different from being foolish. Silly is not the same as foolish.
That is very reassuring.
Yeah, it's okay to be silly. All right, I'm kind of interested to see what this looks like. Ah! Okay, I like it.
Ooh.
Huh? I'm pleased. Okay. I don't know if you can see this up really close. You try and move something. This stencil method gives us, unless you're very careful with it, gives you kind of blurry edges. And then what's interesting over here on the side where I didn't have anything to resist the paint, it just kind of came out. But I kind of like it coming out better over here, I think, than I would have liked it if it had been closed and this part didn't do anything. Okay, I'm going to cut another stencil, and that's basically what we're going to do from here on out. We're going to cut stencils. Okay. I want something, I'm going to fold my paper in half, and then I'm going to cut it. Okay. And fold it again. And then I think I'm going to cut some random. When you're cutting circles, if you cut on the fold, right, what you're cutting is a half circle. But when you open it up, it's a full circle. And it may not be perfect, you know, might not be perfectly round, might point a little bit on the fold, sometimes kind of have to cut in. That one's not right, but that's okay too. Okay, and I think I'm going to try and do a smaller one on this part. I forget that that the camera is over this desktop, and I keep doing stuff off camera. I'm going to try and pull that together and stop doing it.
Yeah, the whole Zoom format has all the things. Are you like at your studio or where?
No, I'm at All Too Rare, right? And Alicia came in earlier and got me set up. And then Poppy came in and continued doing that. And I have taken every tutorial that there is to take on Zoom. This has been a real learning experience for me. And now I'm planning Zoom workshops forever.
That's
right?
amazing. Well, you seem really natural at it. Where did you say you were?
I'm at All Too Real on Yosemite, across the street from Catalyst.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I've got the music playing and I'm here by myself and it's nice and quiet and it's a good place to work. How did your, Amal did a series of workshops that were a critical experience for artists and people who are interested in art. And we got to post a piece of our art. And then there were 4 or 5 of us who came in and gave us a critical analysis of the work, what they saw, because criticism always starts with, what do you see, right? Which means that it doesn't have to have a positive or negative value. It just means, what do you see, right? And then we talked about how we felt, right? And how we related to the art. And it was a great experience. And there's still one more session, right, Amal?
Yes, there is. The last one's on Thursday, so anyone can message me if they want to join it.
Okay. Right. Okay. This is, I'm going to move this stuff. Let's see what I got here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that goes this way. What happens if this goes that way? What happens if we just pull it off? Try and move off the grid thing and see what happens. Okay, I thought when I started this that I was going to want to stick some orange on it. I may. Okay, but what I'm going to do now, what's everybody else doing in terms of color? What is that butterfly in the back of you? Miss Sabur, is there a butterfly in the back of you?
Are you talking to me or?
Oh, I'm talking to Miss Sabur. What is that in the back of you? Miss Faber, I'm sorry.
Butterfly?
Did you make it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So you are working towards, you are now, right? Do you think art is something that you want to pursue in terms of your career? Hello?
No, art is not my career I'm focused on. It's early childhood development.
Oh, okay. And with early childhood development, you would teach or you would do research, or what would you do with that?
Preschool.
Preschool. Okay. My mother teaches learning disabled adults, but when she started off teaching, She taught, I think it was K through 3rd. So we all got to know a little bit about early childhood development. Oh, okay, back to the workshop. Okay, so you know that you can get, and I think Grace already knows this, right? You don't have to like use the foam brush or the brush as a brush, right? You can use it as what they call a dauber, and that's just, you know, making marks. So you're not trying to make any, this is beginning. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Okay, let's keep going and see what happens with this. Right, I am thinking it's gonna need some blue. Just to kind of give something a little definition. Okay, so I'm just gonna daub this one. So I'm using the same stencil again. It didn't get really wet, so it's still good. Right. And then I think I'm gonna move it. I'm not moving it anywhere. Okay, I'm gonna let this one go. And I'm gonna do some blue squares, I'm thinking, because it's got those lines in the purple. And I kind of want to repeat the line, but also want to vary it. So I always think of rectangles as just being collapsed. I mean, squares as just being collapsed rectangles. Or rectangles extended squares. So we're just going to cut some squares. They're not really going to be squares, they'll be rectangles. So what happened in the breakout room? You broke out? Okay.
It's a mystery.
It's almost time? What time is it?
It's a mystery.
Oh, okay, it's a mystery. All right. So, one of the things that corporations and businesses value artists for is their ability to problem solve. And one of the ways that you problem solve is to work in teams and also to do what Amal's workshop is about. You really want people to look at like what you're doing and be able to help you move that forward. And they move that forward by asking questions, saying what they see, because they may see something completely different from what you see. So sometimes having an instructor can impede or stop or slow down your ability to make comments that you feel, because sometimes you might want to make comments that you think the instructor wants to hear, or whoever planned the meeting, or your boss, or whoever it is, right? So when you go into a breakout room with your cohorts, your coworkers, your team workers, fellow or sister students, right? You have an opportunity to actually say how you feel in a gentle and respectful manner. If you're the kind of person who feels kind of shy in front of an instructor, then, you know, a breakout room is perfect because the instructor is not there. You're with your peers, right? And though it means the word breakout room means to break out into a smaller group from a larger meeting, I always think it means that like you can break out. You go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, have a cup of coffee, drink a cup of tea, right? Stare off into space for a moment or two, uninterrupted, right? So you can do all that. Does anyone need a break of any kind? Bathroom, drink of water, stand up, shake hands, stretch shoulders, move around, tired of sitting? Wiggle your feet, kick your legs. Or simply say, be quiet, Yasmin, for just a moment. What is that girl's done? Okay, look at her mouths. You see her mouths? Amal, you applied your paint thickly and it was wet because you almost went all the way through.
I didn't dilute it. I just dolloped my stuff in it and got my fingers all dirty. But I'm really pleased. Like, I've never done anything like this before, and your instructions made it really accessible, and I'm really happy with it.
Good, I'm happy too. Hold it up to cover your whole screen so we get a good screenshot of it. Hide your face. There you go. Okay, I love it. Okay, so Grace.
I think I'm gonna.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, what did you say? Let's unmute you. Let's see if I can do that.
So mine isn't done, but we tried because we accidentally put too many colors on, so we
How
had to
could you
do
do that? Let me see. Let us see.
Okay, I think that's too.
Oh, is your dad giving you critique in the background? Is that what's going on?
That's amazing. I love it.
I can't see it. You love him giving her critique? He's an artist. Okay. So Gracie, how many colors did you put on?
We did blue, yellow, purple, and green.
Blue, yellow, purple, and green, because you don't have any red. And which color do you have the least of?
Red, because we don't have any red, but we.
So is the green that you made more yellow or more blue?
More blue.
Okay, then why don't you add lots more yellow and get a different kind of green?
Okay.
And then go make a stencil and go over the stencil with that and see what happens. Amal, what were you saying you were going to do with your fabric?
Oh, I'm thinking of putting on a third layer. I just don't know what color yet, so I'm letting it dry a little bit.
Okay, I'm getting ready to go, I think, to a solid blue and try and get some depth and some area. I'm really kind of pleased with mine. To be a real quick little project, huh? And I might try Amal's, just use a lot of paint. My little dog is out there barking. There are people walking around. I hope she's not getting ready to have someone call me.
Uh-oh, my baby's like, oh, I think I saw your baby in the car outside when I picked up my thing. I parked next to a car with a dog in it.
Yes, she wouldn't stay home, so, and she's, let me see. I've been here 10 years, she couldn't be 18, but she's not far from it. So basically, whatever she wants to do, that's what we do. And she didn't want to stay home. And now she wants me to come out. Okay, I'm making a mess of this one. I think it's because I laid the stencil down wrong, but it's okay. Now, normally I like crisp lines, but these are not crisp in any way, shape, form, or fashion. They're really spreading. And whoever originally asked what would happen if the fabric was wet, I think that you could get very interesting watercolor. And you could get shading. And you could probably do wetter in some areas than in other areas. Okay, I'm gonna stop for just a minute. Me working, Okay. We were supposed to actually have freezer paper. I ordered it from Missouri. It is still not here. So I'm going to ask somebody if 2 weeks from now I can go back into a studio or get a co-host, right? And try and get everybody some freezer paper out to them. We'll figure out where you can pick it up, right? Because the freezer paper does make a difference. It allows you to do both positive and negative shapes, even though Amal did that very well and got that done very well. And it's also easier because the paper is stuck to the fabric, because remember, one side is wax, and you actually kind of use that to glue your stencil down with the iron. And it means that the painting part, the getting the color on the fabric part, is just easier to do. This is what I think of as a very beginning process in terms of stencils and fabric. So these are textile paints, which sometimes change what they call the hand of the fabric. So instead of the fabric being soft, it becomes hard if you apply too much paint. The second step is probably actually freezer paper stencils, but instead of using paints, you use synthetic dyes. So you mix the dye up and then you add a thickener to it, right? And then you use that to paint on. One of the big differences is that dyes are translucent, which means that you can see through them. And paints are opaque, depending on how thickly you use them. You can't put one color on top of another and see the color underneath. That's not true with dye. So if you dye a piece of fabric red, right, and then you dye it yellow, the fabric will be orange. So I think the next stop with the freezer paper stencils, we'll also see about getting some dye out to people. And then also tell you what safety precautions you need to take with dye. It's a little bit more complicated. Probably the most complicated stencils involve natural dyes, and indigo is the dye that's used most often. You create a stencil, and then you use a paste to fill in the open areas of the stencil. Okay. Then you remove the stencil. The areas where you put the paste don't accept the dye, and that's called resist. And the areas that are open do accept the dye. So if you did a diamond in a stencil using a paste, right, and you were working on white fabric, the diamond would stay white and the background would go to blue. So you kind of have to think in reverse when you're doing that process. Right, so you're not going to get the color of the paint or the dye, right, when you're using a rice or actually it's a flower resist with a stencil, right? You're going to get a white space where you've applied the paste, and then a colored space, right, where the fabric was open. So I brought I didn't bring any work with me, but I did bring some stencils with me because once again, and then there are a lot of different things to use for stencils. And you don't use rice paper, for instance, with indigo stencils. Okay, so these are, let's see, we're gonna go here. I think I'm holding up in front of my face. I don't know if you can see. Can anybody see that? Oh, you can kind of see it. Okay, so this is Mylar. And when I do these stencils, I draw the stencil on any kind of piece of paper, right? The shapes that I want, right? And then I take a matte knife and I cut the stencil out. Sometimes I draw the pattern directly on the stencil. And I like that better. I like freehand usually better than straight line work. Okay, that's another one, so you need to see that one. And these I used on indigo with a cassava or a gari paste, right? So it's just a flour that they use in Africa and in the islands, right? A lot of different things you can make flowers out of. The Japanese use rice. There's a lime. Let me see where I can put this where you can see it better. Let's try red. And you know, if you're moving like really quickly, for instance, if you're painting, you could just actually use flour and water for your stencil, the open space in your stencil, right? And then take your paints and just paint around it. And that needs, once again, the open space in the stencil where you're putting the resist, which would be the flour and the water, right? You're gonna let that harden. That's going to be the color of the background. And then you're gonna paint around it. And the area that you paint around is going to take the color. I think we're finished. Oh, you put them in the rooms again? Okay. So what time are we?
We are at 3:13.
Okay. All right. So let's just take a minute and relax. I'm just going to keep holding up different kind of stencils. You'll get some idea. And you guys just keep layering, because I think that's really what makes work interesting. The more layers you add, anybody who's got anything that they want to pick up and show us, go ahead and pick it up and show. Okay. Oh, let's see. Let me go this way.
Yeah, your face cam is.
I got it. Nobody's there?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there someone there? You and me, Poppy?
I'm here. And
Okay.
Mel's here.
They're in the room.
Did you want?
They can come out. Can you release them from prison?
Oh, everybody's here.
They're here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Shall we tell them about Alicia's dog?
Sure.
Okay. So Alicia, right, who's a really important arts organizer in Stockton, and who started CHI, which is the Community Creative Healing Arts Initiative, or Community Healing Arts Initiative, okay, has a dog, and she works at a prison, and they called her and they said that the dog was digging a hole trying to get into the prison, not out of the prison, right? So she went to get him, okay? So we came to get you to release you from the breakout rooms. You back?
Yeah, everybody's here.
Okay, all right. So this is just another, I'm holding it up in front of my face, right? This is just another Mylar stencil. Okay, let me see if there are any here that are very interesting. Oh, this one was kind of interesting. Then I kind of did a little bit of a takeoff on Amal's design. So these are 3 different sizes. That's one size. Just kind of a little star flower shape. And then this is another size. Okay. And then this one, which is not completely cut and it's going kind of wonky.
Ooh, that looks beautiful. Is this with Mylar?
Yeah, this is with Mylar, right? And you know, the plastic tap on Pacific.
Sorry?
Store on Pacific, kind of up the block or caddy corner from Godwin. Okay, they sell Mylar by the sheet.
Oh, that's good to know.
Right. So when you do these, basically what I start with the largest shape first, right? And then I kind of do a little bit of geometry and decide how I'm gonna, how the repeats are going to run, right? How many inches. And then I go to the middle size shape next and print it. And then I go to the, I don't know if you can see this one, the smallest shape next and print it. And then I look, right? What else do I need to add? And I like to do these on multicolored backgrounds, not just one background. Okay, so these you can do with flour, paste, resist. They hold up pretty good. Little bit fussy to cut, easy to go over the lines. But these things, which you can get from the dollar store, and they're usually 2 or 3 in the package, require a good mat knife or a good X-Acto knife. And sometimes you can lay them in the sun or put them in the microwave for just half a second, right? They're flexible, they're sturdy, they hang, hold out long, hold up for a long time, right? Draw your pattern on them and take your knife and like cut them. And that's pretty much the end of that one. Okay, questions, show and tell, stand up, shake a leg. Anybody got anything to say, do, or whatever? We can see I'm all doing something, we don't know what it is.
Oh, I'm watching Grace. Grace is so beautiful. I love how expressive it is.
Let me see. We go to gallery view. What am I missing? Oh, okay, I forget.
Yeah, I don't know why my video is pinned right now. I probably shouldn't be. I don't know, Poppy, if you can unpin me.
We love it. Grace, that's beautiful. How do you feel about it? Good. Okay. And when you look at it, what do you see? I'm using Amal's technique here. When you look at your own work, what do you see?
I don't know what I see, but I think it looks good.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. I see, I feel the blue in the piece, right? But I also see how, okay, this piece is kind of classical. Yellow is the color that a lot of artists use to draw your eye into the part of the work that they want you to focus in on. So your yellow is drawing me in, right? And then your blue is like taking me out and like kind of around the rest of the picture. And then your thin lines, right, are radiating out so that I get a full composition, right? Great. It makes me feel great. The yellow makes me feel happy. Okay. Shall I do show and tell, or you've seen enough of mine? I think everybody did. Oh, let me not say that. Okay, I think to be distracted with running my mouth, right? That I love it. And I love the green dot over on the side by itself. And that's the end of me. Amal, you want to hold up one more time?
Sure, I was looking for a white, like my space is a mess, but I was looking for stuff. I kind of want to do one more layer.
Okay.
But you can't see super well, but I did like a positive, like a negative space stencil on top of the positive space one.
Okay. All right. Gracie, do you know more about positive and negative space? Do you want them all to say a little bit more?
We learned about that in kindergarten, so I don't really remember.
Well, excuse us. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. I want to thank all of you for attending the workshop. So glad to. Asha Olu, is your camera off and your videos off? No. Okay. Would you like to share with us what you did? I put my glasses on, girl, so I could actually see how your name is spelled, and then I could pronounce it. Can you pull it all the way up? Put it in front of your face. All right. And you want to talk about a little bit about what your piece means to you?
It's a tree. Kind of look like candy right there, like different color of candy.
Uh-huh. The orange and the red?
Yeah, the orange and the dark red.
Okay. You and how, what is that stripe next to the red? Is that a blue? So what colors did you use?
Green, blue, red, and orange.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that pops out to me are the stripes, right? And for some reason, the way that you place the red makes me happy. And I think it has something to do with the motion that you were able to get with the tree. So maybe if it had been straight up and down, I would have liked it, but I like it even more that it leans. And I think that I can relate to leaning because I think we're all leaning nowadays. You know what I mean? Just trying to do the best that we possibly can, right? Leaning, right, with our heads kind of to the side, but moving forward, and glad to all be together for this workshop. Okay, let's maybe take a minute, half a second, close our eyes, deep breathe deeply, and then whatever you'd like to say to close, go ahead and say it. I'm breathing. Okay.
All right. We're good.
All right. Thank all of you, and especially thank you, Miss Poppy. Listen, I'll get your email addresses, right? If you're in Stockton, right, I will have the sheets for you to work on. Gracie, I'll mail you some. Good night. Good night, Grace. Who says that? Does anybody remember? No. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for teaching us today, and thank you so much for everyone who joined us. Yasmin, is there anywhere people can find you for the live? Like an Instagram?
Oh, let's see. At Yasmin Sabur, I think YASMINSABUR. That's a B, not a V. And then the Gmail is Y.SABUR@gmail. Shall we keep going? Do you want Blogspot?
Thank you so much, Yas.
Thank you. Everybody have a good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.